Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to share the stage with these two gentlemen who are really, very prominent in their field, require no introduction. As I was preparing for this session, I looked back at past 1 year, and some of the stories stuck with me to set the ground or the context for this discussion. AI, in pharma, in general, healthcare or life science, right? Starting from research where some of the, ex scientia medicinal chemists quoted that they are moving away from molecule makers to AI collaborators, which is they no longer go to the whiteboard to design molecules. They take the output from models to study and shortlist the ones that are already vetted for safety and pharmacokinetics, right? And if you go further down the value chain, when you get into clinical operations, I think Novartis posted that they brought down the protocol generation time by 87% reduction, right? And further on to the commercial side, brand managers in top 20 pharma companies had a forum where they talked about, they no longer debate, reconcile the affiliates provided forecast. They spend more time on deliberating and scenario planning and actioning against the baseline that's set by models that take data from CRM, SAP, or ERP, and market insights. So with that as some of the stories I was reflecting on, I'm sure you will all agree with me in saying that AI is not a buzzword in pharma. AI is an evolution, right? So with that, I would like to sort of turn some of the questions over to a couple of Prashants here. For all practical reasons, I'll address Mr. Tandon as PT and Mr. Warrior as PW. So don't want to confuse people by saying, the same first name. The segment, we are going to go through 3 segments. I've jotted down a couple of questions which I thought might be of interest for this audience. And the first segment is going to be around real life decisions that these gentlemen have taken and what we could learn from their experience. And the second segment is varying leadership lens. We as individuals, what responsibilities do we carry in the world of AI, right? And we'll close it with, what, as a nation, as a country, how do we sort of advance the partnership in the ecosystem of healthcare where the lines are getting blurred between pharmaceutical and diagnostics and care services and so on, right? So with that, we'll have 3 segments, couple of questions in each segment. We'll have 15 minutes for Q&A for you to raise anything that you might have on your mind. I would like to start off with the first segment, if I can turn it to you, PT. Pharma companies run so many pilots that not necessarily scale, right? At Tata 1mg, how did you decide where AI should be deployed, and more importantly, where it shouldn't be?
So I think our DNA, and that's the DNA of consumer-oriented digital companies mostly, is that failure is actually a great thing, and we keep doing pilots and keep failing, and keep learning and keep doing more pilots. So I think A/B test is something that we do for pretty much everything. So before we kind of deploy any feature big, it goes through A/B tests, and that's routine for us. So now, in terms of AI, I think it's for us it was very clear. Actually, when we started work on AI, the first area we started doing work was on disease progression models and trying to figure out if we could get longitudinal data to start speaking something, and it was purely exploratory. So that was one dimension that was happening, and this was well before the large language models became as popular as they are now. So we started working on that layer. Once the power of AI through the LLMs became real, the chat GPTs and Claudes and all other common platforms that we hear about, a lot of things became just apparent that, okay, this thing can be done so much better. And when you hear AI, it's a big word, but you need to understand very clearly that, at least the way I look at it, there are three distinct areas of use of AI. And so sometimes it is assistance, where it is an assistant which you have to tell what you want it to do for you. In second case, it is augmented, so it augments what you want to do through the input that it brings by itself. And third is autonomous. And I think the journey of which part of your business, which part of your processes and systems are ready for which of these three is something that you have to figure out along the way. But it reasonably succeed, which anything that is important from a perspective of the impact on the business, you would have much more manual supervision at this stage. Anything that is much more logic-based, flowcharts that are straightforward, very easy to automate in any case, and with AI, you can go a step better and automate it better. So the assistant, AI as an assistant, I think is a no-brainer today for pretty much anything that follows any kind of logic or any kind of pattern, which is 99% of what organizations do. So using AI as an assistant is pretty obvious in everything we do. Now, where do we want it to augment things? And the biggest challenge is, what are the areas where autonomous AI can actually take shape? That is where you need to be a lot more, I would say, thoughtful, deliberate, and considerate.
Thank you. Would you say any AI initiative that you thought was going to be successful, but it proved out to be otherwise, that you stopped investing on and you have given up on AI is not the right fit for this area?
We don't give up. It's iteration. So many AI initiatives didn't work out. They don't work out in, and same for all initiatives. So I don't look at it as we need to give. I'll start with the most interesting one we have been working on since 2018, which is digitization of the doctor's handwritten prescription, which was and is a very complicated problem. We've, in fact, worked with academia at IIT Delhi on figuring that out. We got close to, I would say, 80-85% success in. So the assistive part is working well. Augmentation is also happening. It's not reached a stage where it can be automated. Our early models would fail repeatedly because, as you can well imagine, it's not an easy problem to solve. But that only teaches us more about that the next time you look at it, there's a better way to do it. And then suddenly we realize that the technology has moved so fast that it's actually very doable today. And now, and just how it impacts my business very directly. Patients click a picture of the prescription, comes to our system, a pharmacist then looks at it, digitizes it. Now most of the digitization is done by the system. The pharmacist still reads, completes what is missing and all of that, but what used to take 3 to 5 minutes today takes around 15 to 20 seconds. And that is pure productivity in my business. So things like that. Now the question is, from 2018 to 2026, we've been continuously failing. And, or you can say that that's the way to do it. There's no other way to do it. So it doesn't work the first time, but that doesn't mean that the technology is not moving here at this kind of a pace. It is going like this, and suddenly another step jump, another step jump. So you really need to revisit all your failures and see that, okay, maybe now is the time. Maybe that time it was too early.
No, that's very inspiring. Thanks for sharing that. PW, over to you. Healthcare is a trust business, right? When we speak of AI and automation, how do you balance automation with human oversight for areas that cut across, medical advice, pharma or diagnostics. How do you balance these two, automation versus human oversight?
See, I think like PT said, I mean, most of AI today in healthcare is assistive in nature, especially in clinical workflows, right? I mean, AI is not ready for full autonomy in clinical workflows because it can hallucinate, it can make the wrong decision, and it is always predicting the highest probability thing, right? And when you look at high probability events, I mean, disease is very low probability, and especially diseases like the things that we work on, lung cancer, or I mean, some of those are very low probability events. So the probability that you predict those, I mean, AI does that prediction or diagnosis accurately is lower. I mean, that's why you see a lot of hallucinations, and I mean, mistakes are made, right? So typically, I mean, so for us, I mean, what we do at Cure and the AI tools that we build out for clinicians across the world are typically assistive in nature. And in that sense, what we try to do is integrate into the physician's workflow, whether it's a pulmonologist, radiologist, neurologist, right? I mean, we integrate with medical records, EMR systems, we integrate with the PAC system. We sort of show up on the radiologist workflow. So how we operate, for example, is one of the things that we do is if a radiologist is reading a scan and there is a nodule, for example, in that scan, whether it's a chest X-ray, chest CT, a small Q will pop up on their screen. And now they open that and it will show you exactly where that nodule is. It will give you more details. You can go in, dig more, dig deeper, look at past scans. So it's sort of making it invisible. I mean, and think about Gmail, for example, or all of the AI tools that we already use, have been using, right? Google Maps. AI is invisible. I mean, it's a tool that you use and the AI is invisible there. But finally, you have to use your judgment. When you use Google Maps also, you have to use your judgment on where it is taking you. I mean, we have seen examples of people driving off a bridge because they were not paying attention. But you cannot, I mean, that doesn't happen to most of us, right? And the reality is that AI is a tool that can help you make the right decisions, but it cannot replace your decision making. Though we have also seen in some places that we have actually replaced decision making. For example, in the detection of tuberculosis on a chest X-ray, we are talking about Africa, where Kenya, for example, has the same number of radiologists or smaller number of radiologists than the city of Boston, right? So it's not enough for the whole population. There are so many countries in Africa where there is no radiologist available, zero. Some countries have 2 or 3. I mean, so there, I mean, if you are talking about reading an X-ray, it is time consuming. It takes weeks to get an X-ray read. And second is expensive. It's actually as expensive as getting an X-ray read in the US. So that is where, I mean, where we read X-rays, we are reading X-rays autonomously to detect TB on a chest X-ray. And the sort of fallback there is that when we say there is a TB on a chest X-ray, there is a sputum test that is done to confirm TB. So we are sort of ruling in and then sort of, I mean, and then there is a confirmatory test. So that sort of works together well, I mean, as an autonomous tool plus a confirmatory test. But typically, I mean, I think you have to exercise caution in how you sort of bring autonomy into these use cases where there is no human available. And if you look at our AI tool for detecting TB, so many studies have shown that it performs better than human readers, right? So you have to think about where it becomes autonomous. And I also sort of bring that example of autonomous vehicles, right? Technology has been around for such a long time, but very recently, last couple of years, we have seen autonomous vehicles on the road, but that too in very limited cities. I mean, it's just within the San Francisco area. You cannot, if you want to go to the airport, you cannot go using the Waymos, right? The Waymos are available. And Tesla has a self-drive capability, but it's not fully autonomous. You have to still be behind the wheel. So similarly, I think you'll have to do that with healthcare AI also. Over time, it can become autonomous, but I think right now, it can make mistakes and you have to have a second layer of review.
I think just to build on that, you bring up a fascinating point, which is Cure AI used to be, like, you have moved from assisting radiologists to, building autonomous AI for, reading X-rays, for example, like you mentioned, right? But in your opinion, what conditions must be in place before human can safely step out of the loop to make it completely autonomous? Like, take the self-driving cars, for example. Are we there yet in terms of making AI autonomously read X-rays and give recommendations?
I think there has to be a fallback option always, right? I mean, I feel like if AI is accurate enough and the accuracy is 99.9, right, that is still 1 out of 1,000 cases that could be wrong, right? And so you have to think about it being so accurate that that number is maybe 1 in 100,000 or something really, really small, so that you're not making mistakes. Second is you also have to look at the type of mistakes that it makes. I mean, with AI or with any sort of any technology, right, it will make the same mistakes over any bug in any software. It will continue to make that mistake across so many systems, right? If there is a bug in the autonomous vehicle, for example, it will affect all the cars that are in the city, for example, right? So similarly, if there is a bug in our software, there is a mistake that our software makes, I mean, it will affect thousands of installations, thousands of deployments. So I think we have to sort of really look at very high accuracy rates. You have to have some way to provide a fallback mechanism that, okay, I mean, if it makes a mistake, how do you ensure that you catch that? And what are the types of mistakes that it makes? Is it fatal? Am I saying that ruling out lung cancer when, I mean, lung cancer is a possibility, that's a fatal mistake, right? If you don't diagnose it today, diagnose it 1 year later, it's probably, I mean, life or death for that patient, right? So, but if I make a mistake on something which is not that critical, maybe some calcified nodule, for example, on a chest X-ray, probably okay for the algorithm to miss. So again, what type of mistakes is the algorithm making? Yeah.
That's a fair point, yeah. So over to you, PT. One of the things that I'm a big fan of in what you say on a public platform is you often say scale comes after trust, right? Not before. How does that principle shape you when the organization uses patient data or AI models? What I'm trying to get at here is the ethos of 1mg, right, versus a startup mindset. How do you sort of, put that to practice in the principle that you hold in the organization?
I think it's a core fundamental value, at least in our organization. From the very beginning, we were very clear that there's no good healthcare business that can be built if you don't earn trust. And trust is not earned by any campaign or any marketing or messaging. It is about how you behave on a daily basis as an organization, what are your do's, what your don'ts. In fact, Nitin, I also grew up in Unilever, and I think that resonated very, very well with me because I had seen that at Unilever as well, and then I spent time at McKinsey. The way trust compounds was something that is very deeply ingrained, and to me, a healthcare business cannot be built till you have that fundamental thing in place, which is you earn the right to have a consumer trust you with anything. And we never had a marketing team for the first few years, but we always had a medical affairs team and a quality team in place. When we were very tiny, it was a small team also, but it was very clear to us that if we screw up on this, then we don't have a business. And I think our entire team kind of thought that was the obvious thing at that time, that marketing and all we can only do when we are very clear that everything else is in place. So that has thankfully served us very well. And at the end of the day, it is the core business strategy that do things, and shortcuts are so easy in healthcare distribution space, especially when you deal with medicines and lab tests. Malpractice is everywhere. Easy to get 15-20% additional margin if you just decide to buy from random places, and diagnostic sink tests are all over. They take your blood and throw it in the sink and give you a printout. All that is very easily common market practices. And from the foundation, it was very clear that there are absolute red lines. We will never do certain kind of things that compromise trust in any form, and it's okay to see what happens with the business, but those are basics. And I think that has really compounded well of course, we've been very fortunate to survive to see it compound. So, but the fact that we are in a position where a core thing has been that we are very clear about our red lines. We just don't cross those.
Oh, thank you. Now, I think staying true and honest to the core that you mentioned, pays the dividends.
And that part actually hasn't changed. It's not like now that we have grown, we think now we need to do more to. In fact, we've always been equally paranoid about trust. Quality issues, every single issue comes directly to me. Every quality review is one of the most serious and important reviews of whatever we need to do to make it better. And we try to make it better not only in our system, but also with our vendors, with the ecosystem. So it's kind of our DNA.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. PW, over to you. You have said AI delivers the highest impact where the specialists don't exist, the Africa point that you just brought up. But the question is, what do you do differently, or what should also India do differently to gain the leadership stature on a global platform by, doing things right?
It's a very, very good question, and something that I think a lot of people have thought about. And today, if I look at it, US is there, here probably China is maybe slightly ahead, India is like way below, right? And India is still, I would say, ahead of probably every other country in this, right? But I think the AI, the foundation models, frontier models, I think we're probably too late to build that for the world. Maybe we can build foundation models for India, but again, is there a need for that or not, right? But I think where India can really do a lot, one is that when I look at application layer, right? You look at, I was meeting the chief AI officer of a healthcare system in the US just 2 weeks ago. And this is somebody, it's one of the largest systems in the country, right? And I was talking to him about how, he's an AI officer, so I was talking to him about how do you sort of think about build versus buy, right? And what are you building, what are you buying? And he said he sort of has a team that works on some use cases. One of the use cases that he talked about was automating calls to patients, right? So basically, instead of a nurse navigator calling patients, you would have AI call patients on behalf of the hospital. And he said, we're building that technology out. And I was like, who are you working with? How are you building it? And he said he's working with some Indian software companies on building that technology. And I won't name the companies, but he was actually working with Indian software companies on that. So I think when you look at AI, building AI agents to do these kinds of calls, to automate use cases, to automate workflows, for example, in a consumer products company as well, right? Those need to be built by somebody. And I think we are really good at doing that. We have been doing that forever. Infosys, TCS, one of our investors is Fractal, which does a lot of analytics work, right? But these companies have been working with Fortune 500 companies on building out software products for them, right? Or software use cases for them. Now, when it comes to AI use cases, I think we're in the right position to build that out for them as well. So I think that is one area where I think India has a substantial opportunity to still be that place where when you are building those AI agents, who's building those AI agents? Still, our companies from India are in the right position to build it out for them, because they don't have the, if I look at the US in general, you don't have the technology. Of course, there is deep technology expertise in Bay Area, which I don't think we can replicate. They are too far ahead, right? But when you look at the use cases being built for Fortune 500 companies, that is being done by India and can still be done by India, even with AI use cases. So that is, I think, and if you look at it, both OpenAI and Anthropic in the last week announced basically like a forward deployed engineer kind of model. They both of them announced like I think $4 or $5 billion each to set up a company which is doing services sort of model for on top of their AI, right? So these agentic workflows need services to be delivered to a end user. So that I think that's something which India should do well in and will do well in, I think. The second thing I think we have been good at is building digital public infrastructure, right? So we have the digital payments infrastructure, UPI, If you look at DigiYatra, that's amazing. I mean, I traveled so many countries, but I've not seen anything as effective as that outside of maybe Singapore immigration. But this is like just exceptional, right? And I think if you think about digital public infrastructure around AI and how we make, for example, healthcare AI accessible to patients, accessible to doctors, accessible to community health workers or PHCs, right? There is an opportunity for us to be ahead of the curve in that as well, even to government. I mean, not only in healthcare, but outside of healthcare also. So I think digital public infrastructure, AI as a digital public infrastructure is a huge opportunity, and the AI services, AI agent, building those AI agents for companies globally, I think India has a significant opportunity in both those areas.
Oh, fabulous. Those are good pointers. Just the last question before we turn to the audience to take some of the questions from the room. I think, PT, particularly, as I mentioned at the opening, AI blurs the line between pharma diagnosis and care platforms, right? How do you see the pharma platform relationship evolving over the next 5 years? Because it's more of a shift from competing with each other onto collaborating with each other for the betterment of the overall ecosystem, healthcare ecosystem, right? How do you see the platform relationship evolving?
Yeah, I think different parts of the ecosystem move differently, but on the whole, what I'm seeing is at least I expect healthcare to get much more integrated and much more personalized, and that would and more proactive, and that is driven by a very deep sense of what that patient at the end of the day wants or needs. Today, these are all discrete services that patients have to seek separately, because and putting them together is kind of left to the patient to do. I think platforms that are evolving now, and again, from the beginning, we've had the view that healthcare works best when it is integrated, because at the end of the day, it has to work for the patient. And that patient is served best when everything that is needed is in context of how it should be delivered. So just the way I frame it in my head is that as a patient, when you are inside a hospital, the doctor, the pharmacy, the diagnostics, the dietitian, all other support services are all together working in tandem, in parallel, in coordination to make you better, and then out you go. But the moment you go in the outpatient world, these are all individual shops that you are having to deal with and procure your products and services. Now with platforms coming in and data creating a common layer, that context and coordination that is key to better outcomes over a long period of time, that actually becomes genuinely possible. The consumer tomorrow should be able to see their progression, and it should be personalized to their condition and situation on their platform, that okay, to do better, this is what I need at this point in time, and this is how I can access it, or it'll get delivered to me. So I think healthcare as a model has to get much more patient-centric, in the sense that at the end of the day, we all are working to make the patient better. So whether it is products, whether it is services, whether it is information, context, everything should go with that view that yes, we are serving this patient and making that patient better. At the end of the day, if the patient is better for a longer period of time, we have a better opportunity to build and monetize the same well-being over a longer period of time. It's a win-win model. Everybody should be looking forward to that, and I think that is becoming more and more realistic now.
Thank you. That's really a promising future that we can dream of and make it happen in the time to come. So we have some time for taking some questions from the audience. If you can get a microphone. Sorry. The mic.
Thank you very much. It's a wonderful, quite a revealing Quite insightful. Thanks very much. So much to learn in the last half an hour. Just one quick question which made me to think. In a high-risk industry like airlines, an aircraft is been using fly-by-wire for quite some time, where the risk is very high with 500 passengers, and they left it to AI and autonomous stuff to take you to land. Of course, there are some few accidents that has happened. They have used assisted, augmented, and autonomous, all three in the flight mode, right? For landing and takeoff, probably assisted, and pilot gets into play. What is the hesitation in healthcare to get inspired by airline industry, where they are talking about 500 people on the flight, they're taking responsibility, landing and taking off. Few accidents. Why is that healthcare industry is so scared of dealing with? I know very well, I don't want to be a guinea pig, but the fact of the matter is, why can't we get inspired by airline industry?
I can take it. I think we should get inspired by airline industry. I think there is a substantial opportunity there. One thing I would say is still, I mean, the airline industry is not flying without pilots. There's always a pilot available to, I mean, autopilot is there, but it is in the hands of a pilot, right? So it's not full autopilot. And I think that will be the reality for healthcare also very soon, or maybe already is, right? I mean, any radiologist in the US will have access to multiple AI tools across the world also, not necessarily in the US, right? I mean, people have access to AI tools. They are using AI to identify, annotate abnormal parts of that image, to maybe create an automated report, to create a summary of the impression. There is a lot of automation, but I think it's not at a point where it is operating without the radiologist, without supervision. And I think the same thing is true in airline industry also, where that supervision is there in case the autopilot makes mistakes, and it does make mistakes sometimes, which is where pilots have to land the plane in situations where they are, I mean, especially in situations which are not conducive for flying, right, with a lot of rain, a lot of wind. I mean, I'm not an expert, but I think we have seen that those situations, humans do come in and do sort of make decisions. I think I think healthcare is already very similar. So we'll probably question is, are we open to operating? At least my perspective is, are we open to operating without that physician at all? Can we have a patient talk directly to AI, which should be a reality? I think can be a reality, but are we ready for that? And maybe we are not right now, both from a liability perspective, and I think the biggest question is liability. Who's going to take the liability if the AI makes a mistake, right? That's one of the biggest challenges in my opinion. Second, I don't know if the AI is also ready for the accuracy level that is needed to be able to take decisions on behalf of patient, maybe diagnose disease, say that this is the drug that you should take. So basically, end to end, I don't know if AI is ready for that kind of decision making, even to optimize, for example, automate, for example, primary care. Right? So.
Yeah, no, so I think my view on this is, see, airline is a much more well understood logical flow than complex conditions in healthcare, which are much more multivariate, and a lot of those variables are not well understood. So I think we'll have to look at different parts of healthcare a little differently. Of course, my view is that many times we make perfect the enemy of the good, and large areas of healthcare can actually be served so well by AI today itself, where what are you replacing is actually, there is nobody. You have a quack at best or nobody. And when you are talking relative to that kind of systems, primary care, so low-hanging fruit. I think that area is due for a significant impact first. As the AI systems and as the machines learn more and more and get more and more intelligent about the multiple variables at play, I think the more complex you go up the value chain in that sense. But healthcare, in my mind, is quite a lot more multivariate than the impact of an airline accident is very, 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 very severe. But I think the the input-output variables are a lot more linear compared to what I see healthcare as. Right or wrong, I don't know. But I do feel that we'll get up the value chain, but there's a huge opportunity at the lower hanging fruit where you pretty much have nothing to, or the quality that you are replacing is not very hard to beat. So that's I think how it will work.
I think we are up on time. Apologies for cutting this short. We are pressed for time. We are catching up on.
Just a small question, if you allow. Yeah.
Okay, please go ahead.
Yeah. The question is that how much AI is being, in your own experience, how much of AI is being used by the physicians themselves? Okay, AI helping patients, I think, is a far-fetched. But how much is AI being used by the physicians in your experience across the world?
I think it's increasing rapidly, especially amongst the young physicians. And it's just, I think the framing is very important. It's like the physician having a absolutely fantastic assistant that has access to all the knowledge in the digital world at his disposal. And then, so it's very, very common now, and in the physician circles, people are referring to a bunch of AI models and tools just for confirmation, just for added information. Is same patient has come again, this thing did not work, anything else. So I think people earlier were chatting with each other in physician groups. Now they are talking to these AI systems also. So the change is happening. Is it something that every physician is doing? Certainly not. But I think what I am seeing, and we've also launched a doctor assistant for exactly helping the doctor get answers to the questions on their mind. And I think the receptivity is very, very high. So they are appreciating it. They're getting a free assistant that gives them context and information. So very soon, I think a doctor with AI will certainly have much more knowledge at their disposal versus a doctor without. So that's how at least I see it.
Same here. I mean, I would say a lot of AI is being used by doctors in radiology. If you look at Open Evidence, the company, I mean, look at their products. I mean, doctors are using tools. I mean, yesterday I was talking to a radiologist who basically built his own agentic workflow. I mean, he pulls data from the EMR, then sort of looks at guidelines, national cancer guidelines, creates a report, inserts into the reporting system, all on his own. I mean, this guy he's built it in the US. I mean, he's in the US, but he's built his own workflow. And I think it'll be easy. I mean, right now it is easy for anybody, any individual to automatically start using these agents. It does not require any coding, right, to create workflows that enable you. Of course, he's not automating it. He still looks at the report that is created and then reviews that, edits it, and then it goes out. But to create that report, I mean, you can start using AI. So it's about how quickly can people adapt to AI. And as PT said, younger physicians are more likely to do it, and they are doing it. I mean, I think there is a lot that AI will change in the healthcare, especially in clinical operations, and we see that changing. I mean, I've seen like change happen significantly in the last 1 year. I mean, a lot of people have started using AI in their workflows now.
Thank you, PW. So we'll call it a wrap, and PT and PW will be around if you want to catch them or the break and ask the question. Thank you so much for sharing your experience and perspectives, and I hope you got some inspiration and spark to take back and sort of adapt some of these things in your workplace going back. So thank you so much, and I appreciate you.
A big round of applause for our speakers, ladies and gentlemen. And to express our heartfelt gratitude, may I request our DG, Mr. Anil Matai, to kindly come up on stage and felicitate our speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for all three of them.